and welcome to Ghostly.
Hey, we're back.
Yeah, surprise. This is a bonus episode. Because last year we had so much fun doing the prediction episode with Jacob Mayfield that we not only brought one Mayfield, we brought two Mayfields here. We have the Mayfields.
Yay.
We're here. We're here.
Yay.
So we have Jacob and we have Shane. And they wanted to do another prediction episode with us, and you guys said that you loved it, so we thought we would just do it.
Yeah, so excited. Thank you guys for being here. So welcome back to Ghostly.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, I know. First of all, if you are listening, we are at Ghostly World headquarters right now. And whatever you think it looks like, it looks exactly like that. Nicole. No, I'm kidding. Nicole, keep driving. You're doing great. So thank you for having us in your home. And I think we're ready. We've prepared 3 forms of divination. I always think this is such a fun time to explore different forms of divination and fortune telling. So we're going to explore 3 different areas of the occult sciences today.
So exciting. And what I love too is that you're always very thoughtful of these are things that the listeners that you guys can learn and do on your own.
Yeah.
So this is really, really exciting. Now, wait, really quick. Can we do a callback to last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Pat, why don't you remind listeners what happened?
Oh, I don't remember the specifics of it. I mean, because I'm skeptical, so it goes in one ear out the other for me.
So, Jacob, why don't you tell us, what was your prediction that you gave us that was going to happen?
Right. So, first of all, if you've not heard the episode from 2021, please go back and listen.
Yes.
Great episode. Love the hosts. But some things that were predicted was the appearance of a fool or a comedian.
Yeah.
Letters occurring, a lot of success for Ghostly. And this was probably, I'm going to say it as your number 2 fan, like one of your most successful and productive and exciting years. You had celebrity guests, you were interviewing people from all over. But I would say, and I'm always very cautious with saying this, I would say overall, all the predictions quite accurate. So please, you be the judge. Go back, listen, and we would love to hear you in the Ghostly Facebook group.
Yes.
Are all your listeners in the Facebook group?
Well,
no, not all of them, but they should be.
They should be.
Yes.
Ghostly Society. Look it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, well, so this was exciting. So it was weird because you predicted that we were going to get a letter, a very important letter. And who letter? I mean, but then if we interpret letter in the more modern sense of the word, we did get a very important Twitter DM.
Yeah.
That is who invited us to have Terry Carnation on Ghostly.
It was Rainn Wilson. I'm just going to put it out there. Rainn Wilson.
And it was very, very exciting. It was a great year. And I think
exciting. You even predicted the month it was going to happen in, too.
Yes, that's
because
true.
you said like March, and it was either March or it was like early April. Yeah. So you were spot on.
Yeah.
I'm scared, actually.
I know. Who knows what's going to happen at this studio?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Are we going to get The Rock on the podcast? Is that what's going to happen?
I think this is the time to find out.
Yeah, I don't really
but I mean,
know that I mean, he's all right. I don't know.
I mean, he's probably a skeptic, so I would definitely want him on. Yeah.
No, I'd be intrigued. So what we did today is Shane and I were talking, and we decided to focus on 3 elements of divination or fortune telling. So today we're going to explore something that you've probably actually done yourself, something from an earlier Ghostly episode this year, and a longtime favorite. So I think sometimes when people think of divination or fortune telling, they think it's something that happens elsewhere, like in a movie or in a far off place, or it's done by people who are othered. However, most of us have done divination or fortune telling before and didn't even really register as that. And I think the perfect example is the Cootie catcher. Now, has anyone here ever used a Cootie catcher before?
Oh, yes.
I didn't know what it was until you brought it here. And once I see it, now I'm like, oh yeah, I know what that was. All the girls in grammar school did that.
Everybody had one on the playground.
I didn't do
Everybody.
Also, grammar school? Pat.
He's city.
I'm city, south side. There was no middle school for me, so I went straight from 8th grade to high school. So it was grammar school.
Yeah.
That's where I learned this grammar that I have now.
I was gonna say, definitely grade school and middle school for sure. But I'm going to admit something. I never knew how to make one. I mean, I used them quite a bit. I may have tried to do it and failed miserably, but I never learned how to make one of these. But I definitely use them often.
So for you, it was like a device that was like gifted onto you by someone with like secret knowledge.
Exactly. Yeah, I never made. It was definitely like I didn't ever put the words on it or like anything like that. So it was always very mysterious, but yet,
wasn't it usually like numbers on it or something too?
Numbers and colors.
Numbers. Yeah. Well, and for our listeners, we do have a little surprise for you. I'm curious, and we didn't really talk about this earlier. Have you ever used a cootie catcher, Shane?
Yeah. I didn't know.
He's like, yeah.
Although, like looking at it, I didn't know it was called a cootie catcher.
What'd you call it?
A thingamajigger?
I don't know.
I know. I keep thinking there was like another name, but I can't
think. Fortune teller,
maybe just fortune teller. But...
I know all y'all in the Midwest have your own name for everything.
Shane's from California, dude.
Wow.
But I will tell you, I think once I did learn how to make them, I was obsessed with making them as large as possible. Like with butcher paper.
Ooh.
Oh, super
and like absolutely
interesting.
massive, where you have to like really like get in there and make it work. But I couldn't. I mean, like you calling it a cootie catcher for the longest time, I was like, what is that?
Wait, so you knew what? But like you were familiar with this, and you could make it.
Well, once you showed it to me, yeah, I can make one.
I mean, so like here's the thing. In case you don't know what we're talking about,
yes,
it is that thing that where you like would put your fingers in the sides, and it can go in and out. Side to side.
Yeah, it's origami. It's we always think of, elementary school, piece of loose leaf paper, carefully folded.
Yes.
On the exterior, there's normally like 4 colors, and then inside there might be numbers or letters or words. And my first question, because I always love doing the Ghostly for so many reasons, but I always loved like the research element because I'm very nerdy. But it was like, when did this start?
Oh, and this is crazy. Yeah, because it's like, what is it from the 80s, the 90s,
is it
the
from
50s?
A million years ago?
1780s?
Did the Egyptians do it?
I don't know. So the first book I could find with instructions on how to make it was a 1928 book called Fun with Paper Folding, but it was for a salt cellar. So imagine taking a cootie catcher.
Cellar spelled CELLAR.
Oh.
Yes. There might be a typo in my notes.
Cellar. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
So like a place that you'd put salt.
I was thinking, okay, that makes sense. Okay.
So,
when you flip it over.
Yes.
So you flip it over, and if you flip it over, you'll see there's like compartments, and you could like
my little seasonings,
your seasonings, your bits.
That would be good for camping too. Yeah.
Right? And I feel like as a kid, I once saw this as like something at a party where they're like, you can put candy, and you're like, M&Ms.
Oh,
I don't know.
I see. You could. All right.
Not enough M&Ms.
Okay.
Anyway, the first book I could find referencing it as a fortune teller was in 1959, and the book was called The Lore and Language of School Children. It's actually an Oxford Press book, so like a reliable book source. And what I thought was so interesting about this book is it made an interesting note about how it was a perfect device for kids because it was small in size. And kids have small hands. So
unless Shane makes it.
Right, unless Shane makes it. Right?
Out of butcher paper. Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting because accessibility plays a huge role in divination.
Right.
So palmistry, overall, popular throughout the centuries because you need a hand and some knowledge. Right. Astrology has kind of waxed and waned in popularity. I think one of the reasons it's really popular now is because we have computers. So before, if you wanted to chart, you needed to know your date, time, location of birth. You had to have all this information. You had to create a chart like on your table.
Right.
Where now I can just put that into a computer and it's done and there's no error.
Yeah, and you could print out like 40 pages of information from that chart. Yeah.
I mean, it can a lot of it can be automated.
Yeah.
So it's a special gift. And I love giving Ghostly listeners gifts. We have made an official Ghostly cootie catcher.
What?
Yes!
That is so cool.
It's amazing.
It's super fun. So you print it out, you cut it out, you fold it, and you can try it at home. So if you want to see a picture of this, if you go to my Instagram, @Mayfield Magic, that's May like the month, field like a field of flowers, @Mayfield Magic, you can see one, but if you want your very own, just go to mayfieldmagic.com/gift. And there's a free PDF. So I thought we could try this.
Yeah, if you want to pause right now, go print it.
We will put a link to it in our show notes.
Well, we will also do that.
Yeah.
But go check it out.
Late.
So that if you're wait.
Yeah, you don't want a cootie catcher when you're
you
driving. I don't think.
Well, I was also gonna say like with really too with like the small hands. What I also liked is it always made me feel like I was coordinated and I was not. coordinated person.
Yeah, it's a fun motion to do.
There's a movement to it, kinetic, you know, and like that always made me feel like, oh my gosh, look at me doing something like and not, you know, failing at it.
Right, like the success rate's very high once it's made. So I thought, how about if it's okay, how about I'll read your fortune using it, and then we'll put Ghostly on the spot?
Okay.
Okay. So if you're looking at it, there are 4 colors, and in each one is a Ghostly Podcast logo.
That's so cool.
Right? What color do you want?
Green.
Green. And what are the options inside?
Skeptic, Rebecca, Believer, Pat, which is actually opposite because
right.
I think it's Believer, Rebecca,
Yeah.
Skeptic, Pat.
You
but
are
that's fine.
correct.
It's just the way I read it as it was presented to me.
It's okay.
I'm gonna go Believer.
Believer. Same 4 options. Pick one more.
Believer.
Okay. Do you want me to spell it again, or do you want to see your fortune for Believer? It's kind of a.
I don't know. You make the rules.
I did, right. We'll spell Believer one more time. Believer, and then
Believer again. Third time.
All right. So here's your fortune for 2022. Trust your intuition in the days to come.
Ooh.
Okay.
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 Now, do you typically trust your intuition?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know if I trust myself enough.
I don't trust mine. Yeah.
All right. None of these said like leave your husband, which was a careful design choice on my part.
I
there you
see.
go.
Good.
All right.
Yeah,
All
we
right.
don't wanna be
Rebecca, you want to
responsible.
do mine?
Or no, what's your...
Oh, okay.
He has a plan.
I thought you
No,
were
I
going
was
to
going
put
to say
them
what?
on the spot.
No, I'm
Jacob.
going to have you two do it. Do you wanna
Oh,
try
okay.
it?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
You're like ready.
I got it. I can't fold it, but I can do it.
Of course, I'm going to pick red.
Of course.
Of course.
Okay, RED.
And I'm going to go, because I can only see Rebecca and Believer from that point of view. So I'm going to go Rebecca.
No, there's also...
Well, it was
Pat,
just pointed at
Skeptic,
me. It was pointed
Rebecca,
at me
Believer.
in the way.
Okay,
so
what are you taking?
I'm gonna pick Rebecca.
Okay,
Rebecca
spell
Red.
that. That's good. REBECCA. All right, pick
I'm gonna go Skeptic.
Skeptic. All right. I'm not doing Jacob's thing. As far as
Yeah.
I know, you do it twice and
Oh.
you get your fortune.
That's how I remember it.
Regional differences.
Yes. You will soon be a light for others in your life.
Aren't I
I
already?
was gonna say you're
I mean,
not already, obviously.
Yeah.
There you go. All
right.
right. You're gonna
I can try.
Do you
wanna
want to
try
try?
to
Have you ever
do
done
it?
this, Pat?
I've never done this.
No
No
way. Okay,
Yeah.
you have. So you can pick
Okay.
any 3 of us. You can pick Rebecca,
Yeah,
myself,
anybody.
Jacob,
Yeah,
or
Jacob
The
Jimmy.
hasn't
motion
done it
is
yet.
so. It's what you
It's
said
very
is
satisfying.
the
Yeah,
best.
it's so satisfying.
You could also do it for
It is
yourself.
really
that
cool.
doesn't seem as fun though.
No. Jacob, I'm gonna
Okay.
do it for you.
I'm gonna go with blue.
BLUE.
I'm gonna go with Pat since you're doing it.
Okay, that's easy for me to spell. Then.
Yes.
PAT.
And let's go with Rebecca. For my
Okay,
fortune.
so I'm just
you're
gonna
lift
read it
up?
then.
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't it
And then-
satisfying, Pat? Though I saw you being like,
Yeah.
oh,
It is. It's really cool.
You're like, this is why the girls all did this.
Well, you might not like this though, because you need to consider your choices carefully.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I wish you could see the looks that are being exchanged at the table right now. And speaking of the table, if you want to see what this looks like,
Yes.
you can go on Instagram. But even better, make your own. Do it with your
Yeah.
friends. Tell them about Ghostly. I wear my Ghostly t-shirt in the most obnoxious places, and I will start a conversation about this with anyone.
Yeah, it's super
Anyone.
fun. They will say the T-shirt does bring the stories.
It's
which is
legit.
fun.
It's
super
you're a
fun.
walking conversation piece.
Yes, exactly.
So I will be very cautious in
Fun.
the days to come.
Yes.
Just the days to come.
Why was mine so ominous? Everyone else's was very light.
Because I'm reading it. That's
Right.
the reason why. The skeptic reads it and it's going to be dark.
It's
then.
all very scary.
Well, and the fun
Yeah.
thing is you can do. I mean, especially if you don't make even if you make it yourself,
Mhm.
you can do it to yourself.
yeah.
And you
Yeah.
could do
I
this with
mean-
kids too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think kids would like it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this fortune teller, I'm going to say it's rated G.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
For a good
Easily.
time,
Yes.
There's nothing too scary about it. None of the.
Well, except
Despite
for
Pat's
consider your choices
Scary,
carefully.
ominous.
but you know what? Some
That's
kids
just
need that
good
reminder.
advice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a little peek around. Yeah, I mean, this is definitely something you could do with kids.
Mhm.
And also very fun, it's kind of, at least in the Midwest, we're going into our 12-month winter now.
Right.
So it's nice to have something that you can make at home to while away the hours.
Yeah.
Right.
While you're watching Cobra Kai or something,
Right.
Yeah.
For the second form of divination, I almost said something. For the second form of divination, I thought we could explore egg divination.
Oh, wait, egg divination?
Egg.
Yes. So, and the reason I thought egg divination was earlier this year, I appeared on your Salem Witch Trials episode.
You did.
You did.
Which
Excellent
was
episode.
our 5th most downloaded episode in 2021.
Yeah, super exciting. Or 5th or 4th. I don't remember.
5th or 4th. Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
But anyways,
I'm just saying
it's up in the top.
There's
of the
time
list.
left if you want to get those numbers.
That's
up.
true.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great episode.
It was a good episode.
Yeah.
Lots of good info.
Yes.
And what's interesting with the Salem Witch Trials is we have primary source documents that tell us that what caused it, and it's divination with eggs. And to bring you up to speed, if you're not a historian and/or have recently listened to this episode, I have a little quote from History.com, and it says, end quote. Tituba cared for the Paris children, and the Paris' daughter and niece were among the first girls who began showing strange symptoms in 1692. The girls had been playing a fortune-telling game that involved dropping an egg white into a glass of water. Supposedly, the form the egg white took in the water could help predict whom the girls would marry and show the shapes of their future lives. After the girls saw a coffin in one of the glasses, they began barking like dogs, babbling, and crying hysterically, end quote.
Wow.
So that was like the big catalyst moment.
Very exciting.
And there's different... Yes, what were we going to say?
Remind me again where what is the source?
The source was History.com, which you might know
Which they're not a sponsor, but they should be, though,
They should
right?
be.
Yeah.
And with such programming as Ancient Aliens,
Yes.
when it comes to strong historical information.
Strong historical information.
Exceptional.
That's my source all the time.
But I thought they did a very
They
good
do
job
have a
of
nice job.
kind of distilling down what it's about. So the technical term for this would be ovomancy or oomancy. And it's very old. It's even referenced in Harry Potter, if you're a Harry Potter nerd.
Oh.
Yeah, Professor Trelawney does ovomancy with the students.
Oh,
Wow.
I don't okay, not that I need a
it's
reason to
literally
reread
like
the books.
2 sentences. It's like the setting of a chapter. It's like as they came in, they were all like looking at the eggs, and she's talking about it, and it goes to a different plot point.
Wow. I was Trelawney for Halloween once.
I've been Draco Malfoy for Halloween many a time.
Oh, that makes
Oh,
sense.
I could see that. I could
Yes.
see that.
Many a time.
Pat, what's your Harry Potter go-to costume?
Yeah, Hagrid. Yeah, I would say, yeah. And I used to have long hair too, so it went with it. Yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
It's called ovomancy or oomancy. In the Puritan times, it would have been called the Venus glass.
Ooh.
In reference to like Venus, the Roman goddess of love. And I think what's important, thinking back to accessibility with the Cootie catcher, this was accessible to Puritans. So it's 1692.
Right.
Divination with tarot cards didn't really start until the late 1700s. You're not going to get like a crystal ball in Puritan colonies. But you could get water and an egg, which is what we have here. We're going to try this today. Now,
Wow.
I will admit, off the bat, I'm not an ovomancy expert.
You're not?
Yes. So do you want to tell them what you walked into the other day in our kitchen?
I don't know. I'll tell them what you left in the kitchen.
Yes.
A whole carton of eggs just sitting out, which is fine because, they tell you that they're only really refrigerated in the United States. But they were just sitting out there, many glasses of water spread out across the kitchen. And I was like, what are you doing? Where are you? What's going on? Can I clean this up?
So I referenced so many sources. So I'd heard about you see eggs a lot in folk magic and magical practices.
Fertility stuff, especially.
Throughout cultures. I mean, you see it in, I would be very hard pressed to find a culture that has, well, most cultures have like a folk magic practice of some degree. I'd be hard pressed to find a country that didn't use eggs in some capacity.
Sure.
So with that being said, there were a lot of options going into this. And I will admit the first few went disastrous. So if you're listening and you're looking for some ovomancy tips, here they come. First one I heard was cracking like a hole into the egg and letting just the white pop out.
I remember seeing that.
Right. So we did that in our kitchen.
No, you did that.
I did that. That was okay. Then, because we're just reading the white, we're not reading the yolk. That's very important. We do not read the yolk for divination.
Okay.
And I couldn't find any source that referenced reading the yolk.
Sure.
Doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
People have had eggs for centuries upon centuries. I'm sure someone has used a yolk in divination. I couldn't find a contemporary source or even a historical one. So I tried that. That was a mess. Then we tried different temperatures of water, from cold to lukewarm to hot. Now, if it's hot, it will scramble the egg. Like if you've ever made a poached egg,
which is good. I mean, I like scrambled eggs. They're not bad.
I will admit, out of all the forms of divination I've tried, this would definitely go into the category of slightly smelly.
Okay.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
I say this now that I'm in your home with an egg.
Right. And I'm actually just thinking, like, do we actually need a second bowl?
Well, because we're gonna drop. So I tried separating the white, because that was one suggestion, is you separate like a chef would. But many of the resources I found online where you just plop the whole thing in.
Okay.
Yolk and all.
Yolk and all. So the yolk
Just
will
crack
go.
that sucker open.
We're just ignoring.
Yeah.
it.
Right.
The yolk
so
will go to the bottom. Yeah.
And then the whites will come up to the front, to the top of the bowl. And for me, I would consider this scrying, which is the idea of what you do in a crystal ball or in a lake or with a mirror, or even in tasiography, where you're looking at images, but that's only a small part of it. So with tarot cards, you can do a really detailed reading, even if you don't believe in anything particularly psychic or new age. If you just have the book, you can just do it. But with things like crystal balls, scrying mirrors, ovomancy, you definitely need to kind of exercise that more creative side. And if you've ever tried anything like this before, it reminds me a lot of improv. Because a lot of times,
hey, there you go. You're speaking my language.
Everyone at this table has done improv with different degrees of success and happiness.
Yes.
But in improv, it's a lot of like building on top of ideas, going a direction. And more or less what we're going to do right now on the air is we're going to crack the egg into a dark bowl. Another important tip, because the whites, we want to be able to see what we're looking at.
Yes.
And then we're going to look for different symbols. And Shane is going to look for symbols and shapes. I'm going to look with you. And then I'm going to interpret them.
Yeah, speaking of Harry Potter, this actually does remind me. They do things like this. It's not the egg piece, but they
like tasiography.
Yeah. They're always kind of looking for shapes and all of that and trying to.
Have you ever done smoke scrying?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Smoke scrying is really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jake tried to do some tasiography on our second date with Greek coffee.
Yes.
Oh.
So, and also, I'm going to call out challenge right now, unexpected to everyone in this room, to Nick Magaratis, because he talks about doing like coffee grind readings.
Yes.
Because he's also Greek, and I'm also Greek, and I have family members who've done that, like, and who still live in Greece. And that was one of my first exposures to divination, was with like a yaya and like the tasiography with Greek coffee. So I guess I'm calling you out
to try it.
Nick?
I think
You've been challenged.
I don't know if he's done it, but I think Spiro has done it, and he is not Spiro, just for the record.
No, he just knows Spiro.
Yeah.
I would consider doing an appearance with Spiro.
You might be.
That might
in the future.
might be able to be arranged.
I would not want Nick in the room, to be very clear. That would be a caveat of mine.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't think I've never seen them together, to tell you the truth.
No.
But that's like the sun and the moon. Like, they're obviously different.
Yeah, obviously.
Obviously. So this is what we're going to do. Shane has been warming the egg in his hand, and we're setting the intention. I'm going to have you continue. No, I'm going to take over now. In a look that only can be described as a look of a married couple. So eggs, very sensitive in magic and within folk beliefs and superstitions, because they're very porous, but also very sturdy. What I'm about to do is I'm going to crack the egg. We are going to plop it in the bowl. We're going to take a moment to see the shapes form. And Shane, I'm just going to have you describe on the air what you're seeing. And I'm going to interpret to the best I can. Now, with this kind of magic, I also do have a book with symbols that we would associate with tasiography on hand, in case we have to do any research. This episode might run a little longer than expected, but we can cut that out. Are you ready? Do you want to crack the egg, or do you want me to?
You better crack that.
You're the one, that's like has the power or whatever it is.
Okay, let's do this. All right, we have cracked the egg. We have splashed water all over the beautiful home of the ghostly listeners. Producers. All right. And to kind of just, how would you describe what you're seeing? Because you've never really seen this before, Shane.
I'm still looking.
No, just like Pat, could you describe what you're seeing just in a very generic way?
I see an egg in water in a bowl.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that is accurate. I would agree with that.
Yolk is definitely on the bottom.
Yes.
I don't
Is it
see
like-
the whites though much.
I was gonna say, like, can you see like
The
almost
whites
like a murky or
It doesn't, it's not, I'm sure if I had gone in there and like stirred it a little, I would have some other dimension. But right now, both the yolk and the white have sunken to the bottom of the bowl. And what I am seeing closest to me are two doorways.
Okay.
And then what I'm seeing on the other side of the yolk is actually what looks
So while you look at that, I want to talk about
what looks
doorways.
like a foggy hillside.
Now, when I see
Okay.
doorways, the first thing I would think of, especially with two, would be opportunities. And with there being two hosts, I would see this as a year ahead for Ghostly, where there are going to be new opportunities, not only together, but independently.
Whoa,
Interesting.
we're splitting up?
No, not splitting up.
the
It's
show?
all one egg. But
I was
think-
going to start skeptically.
I mean,
The Skeptic Podcast.
That's all right. That's fine. I've
Could
got an
also mean
idea
in
for
terms
my
of
own
two
thing.
doorways, and then the size difference between the two of them. The second one being more clearly defined is that whatever steps you've currently just taken or are just taking, coming soon thereafter, a bigger opportunity. So one opportunity possibly leading to another.
Oh,
And
interesting.
then on the other side of that, if we're looking at whole picture here and we're going mountainside, I'm seeing some fog. A next challenge could be the steady climb into something new opportunities,
Whoa.
but also something new ground, fog, not distorting our vision, but then climbing that hillside, going into the fog, coming across, finding new things, new opportunities, and then kind of deciding for yourself what that will mean going forward.
Oh,
Wow.
interesting.
As only small bits and pieces come when you're walking into fog. When I imagine myself walking into fog, I can only see what comes ahead of me, but having to navigate all of that new things that you'll be doing, quite possibly if I was to interpret it.
No, that makes sense. As far
Yeah.
as to like, with the fog, you may not know what exactly lies ahead, but going anyways.
True.
Like you said, kind of like you just see it a little bit at a time, but it leads potentially to bigger, better things, especially on a hill.
What I will say I do like about this though is that there's more dimension. Well, if I'm turning over a cup of Greek coffee into my plate and letting it rest, and then turning it back over, I'm not getting a whole lot of dimension. I'm almost looking at what is essentially a two-dimensional picture.
Yeah.
And while there are little bits and pieces in that I can interpret it, those as in little bits and pieces, I'm not getting a whole picture all the time. But
Yeah.
because the egg sinks into the water and depending on the depth of the bowl, I'm actually getting a three-dimensional picture that I'm able to see
Super.
That's
that
really
I don't
cool.
get in
Yeah.
other forms of
Yeah.
divination.
I think that's interesting too, because like you said before, I think a lot of people, especially if you don't practice divination regularly, we think of time in a very linear sense. Because like if you put a frozen pizza in the oven, I would hope you'd have a linear sense of time because like it's gonna be done in 12 minutes, right? But I think a lot of divination, we explore the idea of time being much more condensed than that. And I think anyone who's lived through our current pandemic can relate to feelings of time being very flexible and very fluid. And I think with this, what I like about this form of divination, although it is a bit more challenging, is I think it really gets to that core of time being very three-dimensional and being more complex than the linear path that we usually see. Anything else you see? I do see a bit of the letter V.
The letter V.
The letter V. Do you see that through there?
No.
I would say, no, that's fine. I would see that as like a V for victory.
Oh,
Oh,
well.
this might
nice.
sound
I'll take
odd.
that.
I
Yeah.
would see you winning a contest this year. I'm not sure if you've
Whoa.
thought about contest or like entering a contest or a competition.
Actually, we have had conversations about that. Listeners
hint.
out there, I'm calling on you. I know there are like vote for your favorite podcast of the year, and we never do anything about
Well, I
that.
mean, to be fair, we've already won an award.
That's true. We did win
when
an
we were
award
at
at the
Elgin
Elgin
Fringe Fest. We
That's
won
true.
the
Producers,
Producers Award. Yeah.
But we did have a conversation about that we should look into those podcast awards.
Yeah. I just want to say Ghostly is an award-winning podcast.
Right.
You know, yeah, just sounds good.
Anything else you're seeing that really strikes you?
No, because I am seeing what I said I saw is still very clearly.
That's
part
so
of-
interesting too
Yeah.
that it's like still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because we've also been moving around the bowl a little bit.
Yeah.
Something that is interesting is, so there's bubbles on the top. And there is, you see this a lot in tasseography in general. I should mention tasseography is broadly any kind of divination using something you're drinking. And this is very similar, kind of like same.
Sure, I'm not drinking that, just so you guys know. Yeah.
I would not drink
I'm not going to Rocky that.
This isn't your pre-workout.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But there's a lot of debate over what the bubbles mean. So on this one, we see some very clear bubbles. Some people, in regards to like an egg cleanse, if an egg's used for like a cleansing purpose, will see bubbles as like the release of negative energy or even the evil eye. Some people see bubbles as very fortuitous or very positive. Other people see it as something kind of negative. It's very on either side, which I will admit from a skeptic perspective is very hard to
Well, maybe that means I'm going to become a believer over the course of the year. Slowly, you know.
I don't think so.
I do see an interesting sequence with numbers with 1, 4, 2.
1, 4, 2.
Because I see one bubble really distinctively here, 4 really distinctively here, 2 here. Does that mean some?
No, just 42. But yeah, no. 1, 4,
what does 42 mean?
Okay. I'm okay.
Okay. But I would also be on the lookout this year for the number 142 to play an important role of some prospect. Anything else that you would bring up before we scoot this aside and lovingly put it down their drain?
No.
And I will admit, the one thing, if you've never done this before...
Okay, I'm not crazy. I'm so sorry. I'm going. Yeah, 42. It's the answer to the universe. You guys made me think I was crazy, and I was like, well, maybe I'm wrong, and it's not 42. Okay,
From
sorry.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the
Galaxy.
I should mention, too, there's a lot of lore of how you dispose of this. So if you've ever done divination or any kind of magical practice, sometimes you're left with stuff.
That's
and it's
true.
like, okay, now what?
It's
like, what do I do with this now?
Right.
And for this, I mean, I'm going to be honest, ghostly listeners, we're probably just going to put it down the drain.
Okay. Drain it is. We can do it.
When I used to be into magic, the thing that I would do is put that... I would go into the crossroads and then learn how to play the guitar. So,
right.
Yeah. No, I used to throw it in like the backyard and on the grass, so it helps something grow in the process. But it is snowing, so I don't think it's going to help anything grow at this point.
Yes,
except for ice.
And I don't want any mom birds to get discouraged if we throw.
Oh my god! Yeah,
things took a dark turn. But yeah, so egg divination,
very exciting.
Try it at home. If you do, please send us your photos.
Yes, please send us your photos. And
right.
Maybe we can all help each other to interpret what we see.
Yeah. Well, maybe we should take a break and dispose of that, and then we'll come right back then.
Sounds good.
All right.
With further stuff. All right.
Pat, what do creepy stories, funny ghost memes, and inside ghostly information have in common?
My life.
Well, yes, but no, it's also Ghostly Society on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that too, of course. But aren't all ghostly listeners in Ghostly Society?
Not yet.
What? I mean, that means that they're missing out on all my jokes.
Yeah, they are. And missing out on chatting and sharing with other listeners and us, of course.
We love talking to our listeners. If you haven't yet, you should consider joining our private group on Facebook called Ghostly Society.
Let's hope now they will.
Unless they're a woman in white.
Uh-oh.
Okay, and we're back. I was thinking about the two doorways because this is like a preview of what's to come for Ghostly. We are starting a new show called Ghostly X.
Spit take.
And yeah, right? And that'll be announced in a future episode. But yeah, so we are starting another show, so maybe that's the smaller door.
And that will lead to something at a bigger door. I don't know.
100%. And I was going to say, with the Ghostly, can you tell us anything more about it?
Yeah, a little bit. It's Ghostly X for extra.
Yeah, extra.
Extra.
Because we're a little extra.
Is it extreme?
It can be,
could
yeah.
be. We don't know where it's going to go.
Snap
exactly.
into a ghostly. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to do interviews during that, and we're going to do news of the week and listener feedback. But yeah, you're going to have to wait till a future episode to hear more details about that. So
yeah, but we're very excited. We're hoping it's going to help propel us to new heights as Ghostly.
yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, and speaking of Ghostly's future, let's do one final form of divination to end. And we're going to end with my favorite form of divination, which is tarot.
Of course.
This is scary to me, this part.
Why is it scary to
Because
you?
of how accurate you were last time. I mean, it was so crazy. Yeah.
It's been tarot readings. I do so many a
Well
week.
over 1,000 in a year.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
I think my average for readings is 1,200 a year, which
That's
is,
Oh my
crazy.
I mean,
We worked an event together about 3 weeks ago where I did less, but he read for almost every single person in the room, and I'm going to guess that in about 3 hours he had done 50 readings.
Oh
Oh my
goodness.
God.
and I've done readings for universities from New York to California. I have private clients now. I do different events.
International
clients.
Wow.
And it's become a really exciting part of our business. I think for me, it's the other side of the coin. So, I love the mind reading we do, and that's obviously like a show, and it's fun and it's exciting, and there's always jokes, and we always get the pin number. You've seen us, read
Yeah.
ones
Oh,
in
yeah.
the last few
Excellent.
months.
Excellent show.
And I feel like for me, tarot is the spiritual component of our business. It's what brings me a lot of kind of grounding, and for me, it's not as like this. I would say it's the most show busy thing I do with tarot annually is like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually a very
yeah.
intimate
Yes,
thing. I
that's
mean,
the perfect
Pat and I
word.
have both read tarot for people too.
Yeah,
We always talk
yes.
about that, and it can be a very emotional
Well,
conversation.
I
and
stopped,
very
though.
Intimate.
I stopped because I did a reading for one person, and then she called me up 2 days later and was like, "You have to do another reading right now." And then I did that reading, and then 2 days later from then, you have to do another reading. And so I made up a rule that the cards don't change until the moon has changed complete
Yeah.
phases. So
And people often ask me, Pat, they'll be like, they'll have a great reading. They'll be like, so when do I do my next one? How often? And I always tell people, for me, I would say my favorite clients, I might read for once, twice a year.
yeah.
And I always tell people, and I'm very upfront about this, I say, if you feel like you need me more than 2, maybe 3 times a year, and obviously there's situations where people want guidance or they just enjoy like the luxury experience of it.
Yeah.
We definitely have some clients who are very well off, I think would be like a polite way to put it. And I understand if they just want like the luxury experience of it, like that's
Sure.
fine. But I always tell people, if you feel like you need one frequently, then there's probably a different professional who can better help you with your needs, whether that be a financial advisor, a medical professional, a therapist. And I always make that very clear when I'm working with clients. Is there some questions I will not answer? I'm always happy to reword a question with people. Often, I'll ask like, well, why are you asking that?
Yeah.
And, and often that leads to a better question, because I want questions that are focused on the querent, the individual I'm reading for, and empowers them and lets them know that they have free will, and hopefully leaves them feeling not only, like amazed at the accuracy, of course, because I don't want people to have a magical experience, but I also want them to feel empowered to make good choices and to act in responsible ways. So unfortunately, this year, at least at present, there'll probably be no lotto numbers. But who knows? So what we're going to do is I brought my tarot deck with me. I'm going to give half to Pat and half to
Okay.
Rebecca.
Okay.
And this is a Rider-Waite?
Yes, it's a Rider-Waite Smith deck. And as you shuffle, the reason I add that extra name is, so this deck originally published early 1900s. Rider is the publishing company of the original deck. Sir Arthur Waite was the member of the Order of the Golden Dawn and the occultist who guided Pamela Coleman Smith, or Pixie, through the illustrative process.
Right.
So what makes this deck really important and distinct, and it's like the most like standard tarot deck in the world, is it was one of the first decks to fully illustrate the minor arcana. So instead of seeing like 3 pentacles, you'd see three pentacles within a larger image, which helps elicit different intuitive elements, and also is more evocative if you're using it creatively.
Absolutely.
And also the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn was just a very important magical society in England.
Yeah, we haven't gotten to that one on the show yet, but I think eventually.
Ghostly X! Ghostly X! Send your mail too.
Yeah, I would love to do secret societies on Ghostly X too, because I love secret societies.
Yes.
We cannot talk about this on the air. I hate when people do this on podcasts, but ask us about the work we did with a secret society.
Oh.
That is all I can say about this now.
Wow.
But
because
it was
being held to an NDA.
Yeah, because we had a very detailed non-disclosure agreement we had to sign with them, but it was very interesting.
Weird. Interesting.
I enjoyed myself, but I find weird things enjoyable. So
I love it. Like like the Oddfellas and stuff like that. That's a really great one. And I did a blood drive for one. The Ghostbusters. Yeah. I did a blood drive for them, and while I was doing it, they're like, yeah, just make yourself comfortable. And I went into like one of their secret rooms.
No!
And I was like, oh my God, I don't know what happens in here, but I want to see this.
Right.
It looked amazing. There were swords and all kinds of stuff. Yeah.
All right. So, Pat and Rebecca, if you could hand me both your hats. Thank you. I'm going to give them a mix together. And really, we're just looking at the year ahead for Ghostly. So what does 2022 look like for the podcast, right?
All right.
We're not quite going into global affairs. This is Ghostly's year ahead. If you want your own year ahead, mayfieldmagic.com, book a reading.
There you go.
All right. So we're going to do a 3-card spread just to keep it really easy for you to kind of follow if you're listening along. And what we'll do is we'll also take a photo of this and we will post it to the Ghostly Facebook page when this episode is released. So if you're not on it, I don't know why. It's the best. It is the only thing keeping me on Facebook. So
I know, right? Yeah, I don't really go on my own page very much, but I go on Ghostly.
Yeah.
I love Ghostly Society.
So we're just going to do a very simple past, present, future spread just to keep it easy to follow. The first card we see within the past is the Two of Swords. This would tell me last year was a time for decision making, but very difficult decisions. So we see this card when we're feeling like we're in a place of limbo. If you're not familiar with tarot cards, what it looks like is it's a figure. She's in front of a body of water. She has these two huge broadswords. She's blindfolded and she's weighing her options. So this is really a card that I think about with turning inward. The blindfold isn't so much to make you feel like, it's not like a scary blindfold. It's more of a feeling of, I want to look inward and I don't need to look outward for decisions being made. So this, I would say last year, 2021 was really your year for looking inward for important decisions, really balancing the two, especially with the two of you, I'd see a lot of balancing going on, but definitely challenging decisions that were very hard to make.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree with that.
Yeah,
for
sure.
I mean, I did get sick, and we had to come back from that, and that was hard. It was a rebuilding almost. So yeah.
Definitely. And also, I think again, all the things that are going to happen this year were all based on decisions made, or in the new year are going to be made. Were made this year or last year. This is coming out on the 1st.
Right.
Anyways, 2021, we made a lot of hard decisions that I think are going to hopefully pay off in 2022.
So let's take a peek at the present. In the present, we see the Nine of Wands. And for me, this is really a card about surviving. So it shows this figure. There are all these sticks behind them, and they look kind of war-torn. And when we see this in the present, for me, it means that a lot of work is going into Ghostly right now. So now it's like a really busy time. And obviously, like we run our own business, Shane and I, as the Mayfields. And there's definitely times that are busier, times that are quieter. This would tell me now is really a time for a lot of intense work. It would also tell me that there's lots of obstacles that you're currently facing at present that you're facing head on. So there's challenges that are going on within kind of the future for ghosting, what you're planning, and you're really like just taking them as they come. I often see this as a card where people are feeling a little weary, but they're also having to really be assertive. So they might feel a little tired, but they see the importance of really going forward and making that happen for themselves. How do you feel about that compared to where you are at the moment?
Oh, I mean, definitely. I mean, because we recently became a business ourselves. So we're Ghostly Podcast LLC, just because we wanted to split our finances and decide, what we're doing and how, where money's being spent. Because if it all comes out of my checking account, I don't have any idea how much money I'm spending on Ghostly.
Pat, I can relate to that a little too well. I don't want to get on a tangent.
No, but I definitely feel like, again, we've got a lot of these great changes coming, and it definitely feels overwhelming, but also absolutely right, needed. We're doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that really relates to this card, this feeling of like, I'm in battle, but I'm tired, but I'm still in battle. Mm-hmm. So this isn't a card like, say, the Tower that shows like, things are crumbling or in a destructive place, which sometimes is very necessary within the cycles of our life.
Yeah.
But this is really a card of saying like, I'm really sticking to it in a challenging time. We're building. Yeah. 100%. Right. As we look towards the future, we see the Nine of Pentacles. Now, this for me is a card when the material world is really in its abundance. This is also a card of great sensitivity to the things around you. And I want to be clear that sometimes in tarot we talk about the physical world or the metaphysical world, and this is really a physical world card. So it's not ideas, but actual things. So I would say 2022 is a year for not only abundance, but especially material abundance. Not to discount feelings of like, I feel good that we achieved that, but having like physical things to show for it, being able to enjoy the physical material aspects. It's often a card that's also associated with good financial achievement.
Ooh, well, that's, becoming a business, that would be great. Yeah.
It would be convenient.
Yeah.
But now that all the cards are kind of out on the table, the first thing that I find interesting is it's all minor arcana and no major arcana cards. So for me, minor arcana are really the cards of everyday life. Cards saying that this is the time for working and not necessarily the time for lofty dreaming, which I think is really what is going on right now. It's about getting hands-on and probably taking more action. But I think that where in the past there may have been more like dreaming, imagining, planning. This is really the time for like very physical, very tactile work forward. We also, I think it's interesting that there's two nines, both in the present and in the future. Nines are often seen in tarot as cards of like maturing or fulfillment. And for me, I think that there is a lot of positive things going on at the moment. But it's being met with a lot of kind of like gritty work. There's definitely a sense of like, now's the time for working. But what I think is interesting is that the card in the present, which is very much like this battle-worn card, the future card's very relaxed. So we see that even though in the present we're kind of tired, the future card is really kind of, I would say like stop and smell the roses. Another element of this card, and you can look up the Rider-Waite-Smith deck online for free, is that there's falconry presented in it, the figure's holding a falcon. And for me, that really kind of sticks out. Falconry is seen as like a pastime of wealthy, but also depicts controlling the natural world. And I think the question that I would kind of like pose to both of you is, and the question I would pose any Aquarian or the person I'm reading for is, are you the falcon or are you the falconer, the person doing it? Are you the person like holding dominion over nature in like a very intense way? Or are you being ruled by the instincts around you, maybe even feeling blind at times? And thinking back to what you said earlier, Shane, with the Oomancy, with like the fog and making sure that you're being clear, I would almost see this as a suggestion that going forward to make sure that you're being very clear in the things coming ahead, and that clarity will play an especially important role. Obviously, clarity is always important, but especially with feelings of, what am I seeing? Am I seeing things accurately? How can I move the fog? How can I remove the hood of the falcon? And making sure that we're not purely acting on instinct alone.
Wow. Yeah, it's difficult for me with the work and stuff because I am the dreamer. Even though I'm the skeptic, you would think I'd be a lot more grounded, but I am the dreamer. I'm the planner. I'm the one that is like, oh my God, I want to do this, 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 and this. And then one of those things happen and the rest of them just fall away. So that's hard for me. And I think currently right now we are the falcon and we need to not be the falcon anymore. So that is a very interesting card to come up at that place too.
Yeah. To me, I feel like, that I am instantly, for me, it was that we're the falconer. working to try to take, or we want to be, I should say, where we want to have control as much as possible, but also in a positive growth way. You know what I mean? Like in a good way. But instead of just being like, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, like we put stuff out there and hopefully people listen, you know, like that it's, no, we love our content and we certainly love the episodes we do, but being a little bit more thoughtful about the episodes that we do and growing, what we're providing. I think, we did C2E2, which was fantastic. And I do think having
amazing.
More live things if possible, if the world lets us. I think again, just kind of growing and doing different things and trying to do that. But I do think I can see the fog, you know what I mean? Where it's like, we don't know where all that's going to go. Right. But the hope is the more those little things that you do, the more you reach out, that you never know. Hopefully the growth comes from that. And you don't know which ones are going to work and which ones aren't, you know?
A point that you both brought up that I thought was so interesting was in the present, there's one figure on the card. It's very one focused. Where in the past and in the future, we see a duality. In the past, we see the two, and there's two of you. So definitely not only duality of decisions, but duality of people. And in the future, it's interesting also seeing the mixture of the figure in the card, but also the falcon, because I think that also speaks to your duality as individuals.
Absolutely.
And I think really any good relationship, whether it be a podcast or even a marriage like what we have, is this feeling of how do we bring our skills together? How do we use the different skills we have to create something really exciting?
I do rein him in. That is true. He has all the big ideas. And then I say, but...
but there is things, that we do separately that, this is my part of Ghostly and this is her part of Ghostly. And, that can mix sometimes, but it's always pretty standard like that. So in various times, we both play both of those roles. Yeah.
So what we're going to do now for our listeners is we are going to do a card for the year ahead. So if you...
This is for everybody?
This is for everyone. If you're listening...
Not just
for the
Ghostly.
world?
Yes. So Shane, if you could shuffle the cards. If you are listening right now, this card is for you. So right now...
Very exciting. I think have we done this before? I feel like we did.
I asked last time for a message for the world.
A message for everybody. Now, do I remember what it was? I don't. But go back and listen and remind us.
Wow, that's a good shuffle.
That was a good shuffle.
Yeah. Not good at shuffling, I don't feel like.
I'm married to a tarot reader.
You shuffle.
I think you shuffle very well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm actually, I like playing poker, but I don't shuffle very well, so I'm learning how to shuffle.
I was not going to out
so.
you on that, but
Yeah,
yes,
I have
improved.
I've been working on it. Yeah.
You know what we've actually been, speaking of games, what we've been playing a lot at home, not to get completely distracted, is Senate.
Not at all like poker.
Which is not all except, but just speaking of creepy, spooky things.
Oh.
Before we reveal the card for the collective.
Yes.
Any big, so we just finished kind of the holiday season. And my favorite gift this year, which my husband got me, was Senate, which is this ancient Egyptian game, which is supposed to show like the progression of like the space
traveling through the underworld.
Like traveling through the underworld.
Wow.
And it's a super fun game. I've really been enjoying it. So
very cool.
Wow, I got to look that up. That sounds fun.
Any other spooky gifts before we reveal a card for the collective? I'm putting you on the spot. I'm sorry.
No. I did get a couple of books that I'm excited about. One that I've been debating using for Ghostly Book Club.
Yeah, one we've done an episode on too.
Yeah, there's a book on haunted castles.
Yeah, but there's also another book.
Yeah,
about something we've done an episode on.
That's true.
That I don't know if I should say.
Yeah, it's okay. We can. Well, because again, I haven't decided yet, so we'll see what the interest is. But it's on spirit photography.
Is it The Apparitionist?
I believe so. It's the one. It's very. It's about what's his name, the guy.
I wish you could see our faces right now.
Yeah.
Yes. No. I don't know that it's The Apparitionist.
It might be.
I don't know, but I listened to a podcast on the book, and it's super interesting. It's a nonfiction.
Oh.
It's a nonfiction.
Okay.
It's about the like kind of one of the big spirit photographers.
The one that did
Mary Todd Lincoln time frame, kind of thing. Yeah.
The person, was this the one where the court case ended with P.T. Barnum
Yes,
in court?
yes.
So I read a similar book about that. There's also a Chicago connection. We will get to the card for the collective. If you're waiting, I imagine like just
anticipating,
like steam out the side of your ears. There was a very famous spirit painters in the Chicago the Chicago historically called the Bangs sisters.
Ooh.
And they're very worth investigating. I do not want to get too tangential. I'll talk to you about it at dinner. If you're a listener, you can just imagine in your head the craziness with our champagne and tuxedos. They were very famous, very rich. I would say, as someone who very much toes the line between believer and skeptic, I'm quite skeptical of their work. But who knows? Maybe at a future episode. Have me back, please.
Okay.
So they would paint, and that would be a prediction.
What it would be is they would take two canvases, put them face to face, lock them in the box, and then a painting without any brush marks would appear that showed your departed loved one.
Wow, that's amazing.
So there's lots of interest. Yeah. So now that you're all thoroughly teased and tantillated, let's get back to this card for the collective.
Let's do it.
All right. So this year, if you're listening for 2022, your ghostly card is the King of Pentacles.
Ooh.
Which is not a bad card, Ghostly. You did all right, listeners.
It is not.
So this year, I would say is like a year for security and finding success. I would say like this is a year for feeling like a king. Sometimes when we're finding success, I often note when I'm, like working with clients and stuff, things can feel all over the place. Where other times it's really paired with a lot of stability. I really feel like this is more the latter. I would also invite our listeners to be on the lookout for a male identifying individual in the role, in like a power role. Often we would see this with like bosses or people in finances, but it could really be anyone, and specifically someone who would play a positive role in their life this year. Now, if you enjoyed the reading with the spirit photography / painting interruption.
Yes.
And you're interested in booking your own virtual reading, you can go to my website, mayfieldmagic.com. May like the month, field like a field of flowers, mayfieldmagic.com to book an appointment. And for ghostly listeners, if you use the code GHOSTLY22, all caps, GHOSTLY22, you will get 22% off any virtual reading.
Wow.
Right?
That's very generous.
And I love that it's virtual too. Because especially, nowadays, I mean, it's difficult.
Yes.
Well, and even without that, it's like, who has time to drive somewhere? Where are you going?
It's interesting. I did a house call last week, and I was just like, I have to drive.
What?
And especially Chicagoland parking, I was like,
Good thing for GPS.
Right. If there was no GPS, I'd have to be in a different profession.
Jacob would have to live where he works.
Yes.
Well, back in the day, we used to print out MapQuest.
Right. Sure there's a listener who's like, back in the day, throws down Victrola.
With your parents, and they'd be like, all right, where are you? Someone was always in charge of like flipping the page and following along.
Unfolding
I remember
the mosaic.
Well, I remember not having either of those things.
What? No.
Following the sun.
You just had to look it up, or I remember having the maps in the car.
Whoa.
I'm old.
But yes, if you want a virtual reading, use the coupon code GHOSTLY22. It is good for the entire year of 2022.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's
Thank
awesome.
you so much.
And it can only be used once. And even if you've had a reading from me before, I know there's some ghostly listeners who have used my services before. It's 22% off again. So I hope to see you online.
Yeah, you might as well do it.
Fun.
Can they use this to buy it as a gift for someone too?
Of course.
Yeah.
And just make those checks out to cash. No, I'm kidding. Just like purchase one and I'll walk you through it.
No,
Wait,
very
people still write
exciting.
checks?
I mean, that's the true mystery. Am I right?
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming back on and doing the prediction episode. It was one of the highlights of 2021 for us because, I mean, not just because it was accurate, but I mean, we just kept talking about it throughout the year, going like, I wonder what this is going to be and what that. And it just, I mean, I really enjoyed it. And the community loves you. So we are always thankful to have you. And welcome, Shane. I'm so glad to have you
get
on
you finally
Ghostly.
on a Ghostly.
Thank you.
Hey.
I've been very scared.
Oh, you shouldn't be scared. It's just a microphone that everybody hears, and
Be on the internet.
And
you
now we
can't
all have
hide
Cootie
anything.
catchers
or
to
anything.
play with.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
All right. Well, Rebecca, it seems like we have our work cut out for us in 2022.
Yes, we are ready to explore this foggy future up the stairs. Yeah, it's going to be good. So there's
With
going
the
to be
V and all that stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
But I mean, hopefully at the end, we do get that V, that victory, and everything is successful. And, but, we like to put forth the work into Ghostly.
Yes, hard work will earn us the successful future. Very exciting.
That's what I hear, at least. So I want to thank everyone so much for listening to our surprise prediction episode that we've secretly been planning with Jacob Mayfield for a little while now. I am so glad that Shane was able to come on too. I love Shane's sense of humor. I don't know if it came through in the podcast, but he makes me laugh all the time.
Yeah. Well, we just appreciate so much all of the hard work that Jacob and Shane put into everything that they do.
Yeah.
And they just show up ready.
They are
with
true
everything
professionals.
ready to go. It's like, oh my gosh, that's great.
Yeah. Although, disclaimer, the egg was a ghostly egg.
We did provide the egg. That is true.
And the bowl and the water.
And the bowl and the water. So, I mean, it really was our prediction with the doorway and the stuff. Yeah. It was using...
It was using all of our stuff. Our next episode is scheduled to come out on January 5th. And, oh my God, let me tell you what we're planning on doing. So we decided that we want to give back to the dedicated fans that we have in these huge cities that have made us big, right? So we want to do one of the most haunted locations in our top downloaded cities.
Yeah, so our top, the top most haunted in Ghostly's top most listened places.
Yeah. Most listened cities. Yes. Wow,
Yes.
That's hard to say.
I don't know, but we're starting there and we'll keep going. But it's a really going to be in a very exciting series, and we just dive into the creepy.
Absolutely. And this first one that we're going to be doing, it comes out on January 5th, and it will be the Entity House in LA. It's actually a suburb of LA, but same difference. This is the house that the movie that came out in 1982, 1983-ish is based upon, right? Is the location of that.
Yes. And so we got the movie, The Entity, the house, The Entity. I will tell you, I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but Shane is from California.
Yes.
And he was so stoked for this episode.
Yes.
When we told him about it, he got a little sneak peek. So very excited just a few days from now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell you that this is going to be one of our spookiest episodes of all times, most scary episode of Ghostly of all times. And there are some trigger things. So if you are triggered by rape or violence or abuse, you may want to take caution when listening to this next episode.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot going on. But I'm saying we're diving into 2022 with no holds barred.
No, we're going hardcore.
Hardcore, ghost, scary, paranormal, most everything.
Absolutely. And in the next episode, we will be talking all about our Ghostly X episodes that are coming out too.
What?
Which is going to be extra, extreme, maybe explicit.
Experimental.
Yeah.
I think let's be a little careful with the explicit.
Yeah.
We don't mean anything
Maybe
like...
explicit topics, maybe explicit words.
Yeah, there you go. I think we're in...
Well, we might go to like, a little bit darker spots.
There you go. But we're not becoming like something that you will still recognize.
Yeah, when I say hardcore, I'm just talking about being a podcast. We're not, yeah. But you can find our OnlyFans page over at, no, just kidding.
No.
But until next time, stay ghostly.
Bye.